You see, the most ironic thing about human nature is that people only start losing their life when they try to keep it intact. They fear change, so they lock themselves in frameworks called stability. Like a river, fearing the sea, forgetting that the sea has been calling its name from the very beginning. Every effort to be safe stems from the fear of disappearing. But the more we seek shelter, the further we drift from the breath of life. Life never promises us certainty, for it is ceaseless movement itself. And every time we try to make it stand still, we are making it leave us. Like someone who wants to hold on to light and clenches their fist, only to be left with darkness. The safety we seek does not lie in solid walls, but in the ability to dissolve into the flow without being swept away. True peace does not come from avoiding fluctuations, but from understanding that every fluctuation is the natural breath of the universe. When we stop holding, stop defending, stop demanding that everything must be this way, a profound stability naturally emerges. Not because we have grasped something, but because we have stopped resisting what is. And no river remains a river if it stops flowing. For movement is the soul of existence. Water that stays still too long turns into a swamp, and a heart that no longer changes becomes thick in the mud of familiarity. We often think that standing still is wise, that staying the same is peaceful, but that peace is just the silence of a song that has stopped playing. Everything in the universe is moving. Stars spin in their orbits. Dust drifts with the breath of the wind. And even a stone lying still on the ground is wearing away, slowly dissolving in the rhythm of time. Yet humans are the only species that believes it can stand still in that flow. We build walls around ourselves and call it stability. We close the doors of our hearts and call it safety. We hold on to old ways of thinking and call it strength. But those walls don't just block the storm outside. They also block the breath inside. We think we are protected, but in reality, we are isolating ourselves from the pulse of life itself. Every time we try to fix our form, we freeze a part of our soul. Every time we fear change, we also fear the life that is trying to pass through us. True peace does not lie in avoiding fluctuations, but in the ability to move with them. Life is a dance without a leader, where every wrong step is necessary. Every offbeat is part of the perfect whole. But we try to memorize the steps, train ourselves for precision, forgetting that the dance becomes just a shadow if it loses spontaneity and error. Like music, if every note is the same, the song dies in its perfection. The universe does not seek safety, it seeks expansion. Stars explode to create elements, seeds crack to birth trees, and every breath we take is a small risk, because we must release the old to welcome the new. If we keep holding our breath, calling it stability, we will suffocate. Yet in life we do this every day, holding on to the familiar, onto roles, emotions, old beliefs, as if holding our last breath. But it is precisely the effort to keep life stable that distances us from the only thing truly stable, change. The safety we cling to is actually forgetting that the dance of life needs mistakes to remain a dance, needs offbeats to keep rhythm, and needs silence for sound to resonate. When life stops moving, it does not disappear. It just falls asleep in the stance of what we call peace. Those walls are not made of stone, but of habits, beliefs, and fears. We build them around ourselves and call it the self. Every thought about ourselves is a brick. Every memory is mortar. Every time we affirm, "This is who I am," is another layer making the wall thicker. We build it day by day, not by intention, but by reflex. The reflex to know who we are, to grasp what cannot be grasped. And in that room, we feel safe. Because everything is familiar. Every echo is our own voice. But that safety has a price. We lose the sky. When light wants to enter, it must slip through the cracks we always try to seal. When the wind calls our name, it only touches the thick wall of affirmation and bounces back into silence. Then we start to forget the feeling of being touched by a boundless world, forget that every cell in us is part of an expanding universe. The self, which is only a tool for communication, gradually becomes a cage that makes us forget our vastness. We call it identity, personality, the real me. But it is just the reflection of memories, afraid of being forgotten. And when we love the stability of that room, we also lose the ability to melt into eternity. Life is an endless flow, but we want to bottle it, label the dynamic water, me. We don't realize that in our effort to keep ourselves intact, we are going against the law of existence. Everything alive transforms. Only the dead keep their old shape. The wall of the self makes us stop hearing the voice of the wind, stop feeling the pulse of the earth, and stop seeing the boundless expansion happening right in our breath. We go through life like someone living in a sealed room, thinking we understand the world through the paintings on the walls, but those paintings are just memories of a forgotten sky. The self is only a temporary shadow of the light shining through this form. It can be beautiful, it can be refined, but if we mistake it for ourselves, we will forever live in reflection. When we love stability, we forget that melting is the essence of existence. And the more one loves stability, the more they lose the ability to melt into eternity, where there are no walls, no names, only life recognizing itself through countless changing forms. Safety is the seduction of death wrapped in light, so sweet that no one realizes it is lulling them into oblivion. We think peace is when there is no more pain, but no pain also means no feeling. A heart wrapped in thick glass will not be hurt, but it also won't know how to tremble before a gentle breeze or a new ray of sunlight. Like a flame, to shine it must burn itself. When it stops burning, it is just ash, warm for a moment, then cooling into a still object. People run from risk, from change, from the inevitable collisions of life, forgetting that those very collisions are what make the soul grow. We want to keep ourselves safe, but too much safety turns us into prisoners in a room padded with gentleness. The walls of this trap are not cold like stone. They are soft, warm, and comfortable, to the point that no one wants to leave. We believe we are protected, but in reality we are restrained in a peace that cannot breathe. The trap of stability is not locked by violence, it is locked by tenderness, by the sweet words of habit, by the feeling that everything is fine, by the smooth passage of identical days. And the person held there never knows they are being held, because this cage has no lock, only the willingness to stay. We call it happiness, but strangely, true happiness does not need the feeling of safety. It needs the feeling of being alive. Every living thing must trade. The bird must leave the branch to know it can fly. The seed must crack its shell to know it can become a tree. But humans choose not to fly, not to crack, because they fear hurt. We forget that life cannot be preserved by standing still. Only death is forever motionless. And so while trying to find peace, we gradually find the silence of death. A death without blood, without mourning. Just the quiet disappearance of the flame that once burned brightly inside. Stability, in its gentle form, is the most sophisticated trap consciousness has ever created, where we are lulled to sleep by our own sense of peace, where there is no more pain, but also no more light, no more reason to flicker, to burn, to live. After the rupture comes the silence. No more applause, no more roles, only nameless presence. All external movement seems to stop, but in the depths, something is quietly regenerating. People call this phase loneliness, but in truth, it is the moment the soul reunites with itself after a lifetime lost in noise. When all relationships, titles, and old images have dissolved, you realize you are still there, not as someone, but as pure knowing observing existence itself. Solitude then is no longer a wound, but a mirror reflecting the whole. In the silence, you begin to hear sounds never heard before. The slow beat of the heart, the subtle shift of breath, the sigh of the universe, spreading through every cell. You understand that you were never separate from the world. You just lived too noisily before, to hear that connection. Solitude, when seen correctly, is not the absence of people, but the absence of illusion. You are not abandoned. You have just been returned. And in that return, you see clearly that you never needed anyone to exist, because your essence does not depend on others' presence, but is the foundation for all presence. You do not stand outside the universe. You are the breath the universe is exhaling, the light illuminating itself through your form. Emptiness is no longer frightening, for it is the very space where everything alive is born. This solitude does not isolate. It is vast, like the space between two notes that allows sound to resonate. You touch a stillness that is no longer silence, but an indescribable fullness. When you release the last echoes of fear, you will hear in that emptiness a very soft voice. This is not the end of connection, but the beginning of merging. There is nothing to fear in emptiness, only echoes not yet understood as yourself. And when you realize that, solitude becomes freedom, silence becomes your companion, and the very absence of everything becomes your most complete presence in the universe. But freedom does not come from control, but from the ability to dissolve in movement. When you stop trying to direct the rhythm of life, you begin to feel that rhythm playing you, like an ancient song with no composer. The river does not need to know where the banks are to keep flowing. It only needs to flow, and in that flow, it is both the water, the journey, and the destination. The wind does not need direction to remain wind, for not belonging anywhere allows it to pass everywhere. Likewise, consciousness does not need a purpose to have value, because in every moment it is present. The entire universe is contemplating itself through your eyes. But humans have been taught to know where they are going, to master, to achieve, so they forget the art of being alive without holding on. They cling to the banks to feel safe, but forget that the river only loses freedom when it stops flowing. Letting go is not an action, but ceasing to resist the truth that there is nothing to grasp. You do not need to discard anything. You only need to stop clenching, for it is when the hand opens that life can pass through you. Every attempt at control stems from fear, and fear is the anchor holding you back in the current. When you release that anchor, you are not swept away, you are carried. There is a subtle difference between drifting and dissolving into the flow. Drifting is when you resist the water, while dissolving is when you let the water become you. In that state, everything once a problem melts into a wider vision, like a small wave dissolving into the ocean. When you stop demanding that life conform to your will, you begin to see yourself conforming to life's will. And strangely, in that release, you do not lose control, you lose the false controller to find true harmony. You become the pulse of the universe, the breath of the present, the space between two moments. No past to regret, no future to seize, only the unfolding movement, without purpose, without end, yet perfect in every second. When you stop seeking a safe place, you become life itself, seeking to bloom. And in that blooming, you realize freedom was never something to achieve. It is your essence, only obscured by the habit of wanting to control what needs no control. Once you have seen, you cannot unsee. When the mist of illusion has cleared, your eyes cannot return to seeing the old world in the old way. You return to life, but no longer as someone seeking their place. No longer trying to arrange everything into molds. No longer wanting the world to understand or recognize, like the wind passing everywhere but belonging nowhere. And because of that, present everywhere. You walk through life not as someone searching for the path, but as the path opening beneath each step. You work, speak, love, laugh, but without reason, without expecting response. Every action becomes a natural expression of awareness, like a wave rising and falling, without needing witness. You no longer ask, "What does this mean?" because you have seen that life itself is the meaning. Others may look at you and say you have changed, but in truth, you have simply stopped trying to become someone. In that return, there is profound lightness. You are no longer the center, nor the outsider. You are the breath passing through everything, the pause between two lines of dialogue, the stillness amid the rushing crowd. You realize there is no need to prove freedom. because the free do not need anyone to know they are flying. They are simply the wind blowing through the field, caressing each stalk of wheat, then vanishing without a trace. And that invisibility is the most beautiful trace. You see everything happening no longer as right or wrong, only as the movement of the whole adjusting itself. When someone loves you, you smile. When someone leaves, you smile, because you know no one truly comes or goes. Everything is just changing form. You no longer say, "I am living," because you have become life itself. Your presence needs no words, no proof, no understanding. It is like the fragrance of a flower, existing only to spread. Those who have not seen will call it calm. Those searching will call it enlightenment. But for you it has no name, only wind, not coming, not going, no longer needing shelter, no longer needing banks. You return to the world, but the world no longer has the power to hold you. You belong to everything, and therefore to nothing. Nothing is more dangerous than the feeling that you are safe. For the moment you believe you are protected, you have begun to drift from the movement of life. Safety is the sweetest sleep the ego ever created, where humans believe they have arrived, when in truth they have only stopped living. A safe river is a frozen river. It keeps its shape, but loses its soul. But you, if you dare to melt, will find the sea waiting for you from the beginning. For life never wants you to stand still. It always whispers in every breath, "Keep going." Only the fearful mind wants to stop, while the soul only knows how to open. Every attempt to cling to peace is a form of resisting nature, because true peace does not lie in avoiding storms, but in realizing the storm is also you. When you still see fluctuation as threat, you still believe there is a separate you to be threatened. But when you see that wave, wind, and sea are only temporary forms of the same water, you understand there is nothing to lose. Peace is not the absence of storm. Peace is when you realize you are the storm, the movement, the vitality, the roar, and the final silence. And in that moment you no longer ask what safety is, because you see that true safety lies in no longer needing protection. Death is only frightening to those who have never lived, while one who has become life itself cannot be lost. When you stop holding your form, you do not disappear. You return to the endless flow, where everything dissolves, not to end, but to begin again, as if it never ended. If you feel this flow touching you, stay with me. Let us continue the journey of looking deeper into life itself. Thank you for listening. See you in our next movement.